Okay. All right, can y'all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what we're going to cover is we're going to talk about how to schedule or create pre-plans and assign the pre-plans. So in fireworks, there's two methodologies out there that we can look at. When it's the first time that you are scheduling a pre-plan or creating a pre-plan to be done by your company personnel, you'll need to go into the back office. And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the back office, but this is the back office that we're talking about. And then under the property section, you'll notice that over here to the right, there's a button that says new pre-plan. So when you click on the new pre-plan, it brings up basically a workflow for you to come in and design what you're going to do for your pre-plan. So the first thing you'll notice is we're giving you a filter. And you mentioned that y'all use zones for your pre-plans. So inside of this, I'm gonna pick up some, y'all tell me a zone that I can use that would work for buildings.
Well,
Y'all know
see,
the properties.
those zones are, Ed, do you want to use those zones? Because that's more of that's a thing that fire prevention uses. We don't, when we're sending out the pre-plans, we don't use these zones. Now,
So
the
what
district,
zones do you use for
district
pre-plan?
would be more likely the one to use, right, Ed?
I agree, John, because they're broken down by stations.
Yeah.
Okay.
The zones are more for prevention.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so now I can come in here and let's just say District 40, if there's anything there. And now when I click search, it's going to show me, well, there's nothing there. Let me find a district that has something if we're fortunate. Okay, do we know of a district that should have properties in it?
All of them should.
Try Station 43, try 43. I mean, that might have something there. No?
Nope. So evidently in your property database, you don't have anything built into it. So let's look at something here. No, those are neighborhoods. There's no 43. Let me see if there's a 43 in a zone here.
What about box?
Okay, let's try your box. There we go. So we're trying to figure, and this is a key thing, is we're trying to figure out how your properties are segregated. So let's try a box S40.
Oh, yeah.
And there we go. So we have a list of properties here. So you'll notice that this is giving you a list of properties, and it shows there's 343 properties inside of this actual box. This is where I was talking about how we have to take these and break them apart. And when we talk about breaking them apart, what we're saying is I can come in here and I can give them a due date of any time during next year. I can then come in here and assign them to a station and assign them to a shift. But you'll notice that this is a whole entire list for that station, and you're saying you want to break it into 3 different groups, correct? One
Yes.
part for A shift, one part for B shift, and one part for C shift. And the question becomes, how do you divide this into 3 different groups? And that's why I was referring to having a subtype that would be a zone or a district or a neighborhood that I can say out of these 343, this 100 is given to A shift, this 100 is given to B shift, and this 100 is given to C shift. You kind of follow where I'm going with this scheduling component?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just come in here and say, well, I'm just going to take the first ones in the list because they're all tracked by survey number. Now you do have zones here, so we could possibly come to here and sort in ascending. And then you'll notice you have some that are Ashland, Belvedere, and say, okay, well, let's take these Ashland ones and these Belvedere ones and give those to A shift. So there is some type of segregation built in so that you can divide them up a little bit. But we have to figure out how to take this 343 and give them all to station 40, give some to A shift, some to B shift, and some to C shift. And that's where we're looking at, and that's what we're trying to figure out now for the first time. So that becomes how you want to capture that data and how you want to grab it. So I didn't know what were y'all going to use for that mechanisms to break that up by shift.
Geez, I'm clueless. Would we have to go into each property?
No, you
assign-
could pull out a property list and do it as an Excel spreadsheet, and then we can bulk update it. But the question is, how do you want to do that? Now, there is another option where you can schedule these all for that station, and then you could come back and do some advanced searching to look at one of these options, either by address or by whatever, but some mechanism has to be decided upon how we're going to assign them. I can put all of these in station 40. That's not a problem. I can do that all day long. I can put all of these with a due date of next year. I can come in here and say, I want to put them into 2023, and they got to be done. I think it was said that they have to be done by October 31st. I can come in here and put them with a due date of October 31st. So what happens there is when January 1 hits, it's going to show all these pre-plans that are scheduled. And it's as long as they get them done by October 31st, they'll be done. If you want to schedule them with the due date of each month and divide them up, then we have to figure out how we're going to divide them up by each month as well. It depends on how you want to schedule them. You can schedule so many per month. You can schedule them all for one date at the year. And when those captains open up their system and they go to pre-plans, it'll show that all of these are scheduled for 2023. And as they get them done, they'll disappear off of the list. So that's the methodology that you need to decide upon. Is I can put them all for station 40. But if you want to break them up and have them rotate between those three shifts, we need to figure out how to divide this 343 into three shifts to where trucks are not driving all over the top of each other. If that makes sense.
The best way I could say, we could break them down, divide it by 3 and divide them up by zones, because if they stay in Bonnybrook, one truck will be in Bonnybrook, Bridgeport, Buffalo, like you said, they're not gonna be driving across each other and wasting windshield time. But how we can break it down by dividing it up by 3 in zones is the question, if that's possible.
Oh yeah,
That
so
makes-
basically what we can do is we can come into the system and right here where it says box 3, that I can come in and say, Gabe, give me box 3.
Good, good. I'll be out shortly.
I can say, give me box 3 for Bonnybrook and hit search. And now it's only going to show you the ones that are there. So, and if that was the case, I could take this and click this box right here to mark those all with checks. And then I would put what shift I want to give it to. And when I hit create, it would create those pre-plans for those stations. I mean, pretty much that's the process that we go through scheduling the initial one. Now you'll notice that you have some already scheduled because we default scheduled those. That's also easy to fix as well. Is I could come over here to where it says pre-plan assignment. So pre-plan assignment is going to show you those that have already been created in the system. So you'll notice if I'll come right here and I come once again to the box and hit station 40, and then I come to the zone and just hit Bonnybrook and hit search, it shows me that there are those 9 properties. Because they've already been created, I can come right here and click station and shift. And I can say, I want these 9 properties to go to station 40 on A shift. And then as soon as I hit this blue arrow, it'll push all 9 of those over to station 40 on A shift. And then I can change the date for all of these by right here, just saying, make this date 11/30/23. Or excuse me, October 30, 23. 31. I'm gonna get it right. It's only early for me. Dang gummit, hold on. Try it again. So now when I hit submit, we just took those existing ones and we moved them over. The reason why they're not there is because you notice I'm looking for this year. If I change it to all, there they are. And if I look at those that have been assigned, it shows me that they've been assigned to A shift, station 40. So there's 2 ways to actually assign pre-plans. One is by doing the new pre-plan. If it's a brand new property and we want to assign the pre-plan and it hadn't been assigned, I can assign it and throw it into that rotation. The other way is if the pre-plan has been assigned, I can go to pre-plan assignment, search for those properties that were scheduled for this year in that neighborhood. You'll notice it shows none for Bonnie Brook. Now I can go to Briar Meadow and say, look, there's Briar Meadow. And I can go through those subdivisions and figure out what zones I want to have and assign them. So we've got to figure out, and I like your idea of doing the box and the zone, because that kind of keeps them in a local area. But we'll have to go through there and figure out what zones we want to assign them to in that process. And I was looking, let me just take this out, because I'm trying to see something else here. I'll show something else in this process. Oh, go ahead and update. I know I'm messing with you. Update those pre-plans. Thank you. So the other thing you'll notice is, let's see if it gives me that field, which it doesn't. It gives me the prop box and the zone. Yep, there we go. So the other thing I can do is, if I bring up a list, and this is a list of 322 that are left inside of station 40. I can come right here and do it this way. I can click in my top cell and tell it to sort my zones. And now it's giving me all of my zones and they're sorted. So I can come right here and say, okay, I've got these to look at. And I can see that I've got Ashland right here. So I can come over and grab these that are Ashland and basically push them over to the side to go that way. So there's different ways to do it. I think the thing is determining if you want to do it by station and box and zone, then you can assign different shifts to different zones and it will segregate out your pre-plans. So there's a new way to document that. So on the browser end, if the pre-plans have been selected, I can click right here and do advanced search and say, I want to look at box S40. And then in that process, I'm going to say, show me those that have been created in box X40, and there they are. Then what I can do is I can do further and say, okay, show me X40, but also show me a neighborhood. So what would be a neighborhood? That would be, well, these are the ones that it's going to show for box 40.
It would be zones for us.
Oh, we did zones. That's correct. I'm sorry. So show me the zone that I'm looking for. Let's see if Bel Air is one. No, what would be a zone in Station 40?
Belvedere,
Okay. So now I've got all of these in Belvedere, and I need to schedule these to somebody. If I click on the assignment tab, it takes whatever is in that list and now lets me come in and make a change. So since I want to change all of these, I can come in here and click the mass update button and say, I want to change the due date to be 2023, and then October, and then 31st. I want to change the station to be Station 40, and I want to change the shift to be a shift. You'll have multiple shifts. We have to figure out what's the correct one.
well, yeah, and I'm gonna make a note and send it to support to see if they can
We'll merge them
Disable.
together. I'll have them merge that.
I have a
disable them in
question.
the background.
Right. So now we'll have submit.
I have a question.
And- Yes.
Go back to the screen. You see where it says staff? I noticed
Yes.
sometimes the lieutenants would like to put their names on my inspection tabs under inspectors, so they know they have to go do that particular pre-fire plan. I want to be able to separate my inspector tab for just my inspectors. And if we could assign the staff in that button for the lieutenants, could that be possible?
So wait, say that. So you want to assign
look-
this to people?
Yes, sir, because I noticed they self-assign it, but they put it under my inspector tabs. You remember when you looked over, you said, oh, looks like this is already being assigned to someone? That is not a fire inspector, that's a lieutenant. I want to
Okay.
be able to leave my inspector tab open for inspections now that we have a staff. This particular tab, which says mass update, if we wanted to assign it to just that person, because I don't want them using my inspector tabs, is that possible is my question. I see John,
So
Thinking.
if the trucks are just doing pre-plans under your users and permissions, they should not see the inspections tab.
okay, when we come up, if you pull one up, when we come to assign, it is that way, so we'll need to update that.
Okay. So if the trucks are just doing pre-plans and they're not doing life safety code inspections, then they should not even see the inspections tab to document that. On the pre-plan side, when they log into the software and click, that's a pre-plan that they're going to do, it's going to automatically put their name as a person doing the pre-plan.
And I think that would be hard because, you know, you guys, well, guys are supposed to, they may be moved, switching shifts or, yeah,
Right.
switching stations.
I wouldn't assign a pre-plan to a person. I would assign inspections to a person if the inspection is done by your inspection bureau and you have certain inspectors that are going to inspect certain buildings. And that's
Well,
something
that's-
that we can cover on inspections. This is on the pre-plan side.
Yes, sir. I was just making an observation because on your program, it showed that the pre-fire plan was assigned to an inspector. So that needs to
Right.
be updated. That should not be
Well-
an inspector for a pre-fire plan.
And that was one that was completed. So it showed the name that he completed on that date.
But you have him as an inspector. The tab said inspector.
Because, well, we use the word inspector to show who is the person that actually performed that pre-plan or that inspection. We
Okay,
just don't, we don't use the word staff there. That column just says who was the guy that did the inspection. And we put their
That
name
answers
as the inspector.
that answers my question. And if we run into that challenge, we'll get with you.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a challenge. So, but we'll work through that. So now,
Okay.
once that I've narrowed my list down to where it needs to be, I can hit submit. And when I hit submit, I've just now scheduled all of those pre-plans for October 31st of next year, Station 40 and A shift. So this is another way that you can modify and schedule pre-plan. No matter which way you want to do it, either in the browser view or in the back office view, it all depends on what you narrow your list to. And I think for you guys, it probably needs to be the box and the zone in order to calculate and to get a narrowed list down where you want it to be. And then once you select that box and zone, you can basically come into there and either, if it's already been created, you can do it in a browser view. If it's already been created, you can do it under the pre-plan assignment view, which is what we're showing here, because this is the same thing that we're showing you in the website, which is going to show you right here. These are the properties that have been pre-planned or need to be pre-planned based upon where they're at. Once you expend all of these, you'll want to come into here and say, okay, now give me a list of any properties that do not have an inspection. So where that comes into play is I would come over here. Once I've adjusted all of these that have been assigned, I'd come over here to the new pre-plan list, and I would basically come in here and I'd want to know a list of properties that have not been inspection and to see if they've got one. Because if they have, if I come in here and I grab this list, and I'm just going to take the box out just to show you this, and I'm going to take the zone out just to leave it empty, and I hit search, you'll notice that over here, if you look at this process, this is going to show you the last pre-plan that has been scheduled or completed on these. And if it was completed, it would show you out to the side who the person was that completed it. If it was not completed, then it's going to show you in this section that process of if it was completed, we did not get the name from emergency reporting of the person that completed it. So this is where we can run it and see, I need to see those properties that maybe were not completed in a prior pre-plan. And then also for brand new properties, you can come in here and search, give me properties that have never been inspected. So you'll notice this is data that came over from your system, that these are properties that have never had a pre-plan conducted on them. So you could go into these properties and you'll notice there's no box assigned to them. There's no zone assigned to them. So I don't know if these are bad properties or if these are properties that are under construction, but
They
they're
were
flagged.
new. Yep,
They're
they were
flagged
all
that
under
they
construction,
require
they were new.
inspection. So you would basically go in here and assign them to a zone, a box, and then schedule a pre-plan for them. So the rolling process is when a building moves from in construction to operational, you want to go in and schedule a pre-plan for that property to that station and that shift. And then once you schedule the first pre-plan, when it's completed, we're going to schedule it for next year and we're going to rotate the shift for you so that once you schedule a property for pre-plans, you don't have to go back and touch it until that property no longer exists and you stop doing pre-plans on it. So it's just a workflow. Whoever builds your properties in, they need to remember that when that building becomes occupied, you need to schedule it for a pre-plan in the current year with the correct station and shift so that they'll see it as a pre-plan to be done. So multiple ways of capturing and assigning pre-plans inside of our system. I think the key thing that you've brought out of this is we're going to use the box and the zone, and then you're going to assign by station and shift, either from the back office or from the browser view right here in the assign view. If I want to change to another area, I would just change my zone. That would be another one that would maybe have something there. And if it had something, it would show it up. You would hit assignment. You could change those assignments as well. So it's pretty straightforward on scheduling pre-plans once you determine how you want to divide it up between the stations and the shifts. Any follow-up questions from anyone on this?
Will you be getting to the point about how the crews are going to see when they're assigned to them?
Oh yeah, it's pretty simple. When the crews log in, if I'm looking at pre-plans, so for example, I'll come back here to the list and I'm looking at pre-plans. When I log in, I'm going to come in and put, I'm on station 40, and I'm going to come right here and I'm going to put, I'm on A shift. And when I hit search, it's going to show me those that have been assigned to station 40 on A shift.
Okay, so I was also looking at, I kind of would like to, and this is when you're here on the admin training. So I'm in the dashboard, and there's a thing, there's widgets that you can add.
Correct.
That I think that could be built. That could probably be built in, so it automatically comes up and shows them what needs to be done, because it says plans due today, stuff like that. So I would think that might be easier for the crews to go to the dashboard and see something like that pop up.
Well, no, this is going to actually easier, because what this does for your crews, if they pull up, they're looking for box 40, station 40, they can also come in there and say, okay, we're going to only look at the ones that are due in Belvedere today.
Okay.
And then once I do that, I can click right here to map view on my laptop, and it's going to show me where those properties are that I need to pre-plan.
Okay. So, and it'll remove the ones that are completed, right?
Once they complete it, it'll remove them off of the list.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Because what I would do, I've got this set to due date, but basically when we look at this one, if we come in there and remove the due date, we would come in that process to be the due date would be this year. And that would be the default this year. So it's only going to show you those pre-plans that are scheduled for the current calendar year.
Okay.
If you have it to show you all, in which I had it set to show you that, it showed you the ones for 23, as well as the ones for 22 and so forth. So there's a setting in the web setting, web details for profiles, and all web profiles should be set to show the due date to be for pre-plans to be the current year.
Okay.
So you'll notice nothing on 23 is showing up in this list.
Okay.
Only stuff in 22. So if I came and said station 40, or excuse me, box 40, and I came and did zone Belvedere, and I came and did A shift, it's showing me there's none because the due date is this year. But if I get rid of that this year, there they are. And they're all dated for 23. This is where your guys on the trucks need to go when they're looking at pre-plans, because this will actually show them that process. And the benefit of this on their tablet or on their device is they can easily flip to map view And as they're out in the field, they can scroll in on the property they're going to, they can click on the dot and hit go to pre-plan.
Okay.
And that'll be part of the end user training. We'll actually walk through that workflow.
Okay, and you had said that under their profiles, you want to have it on the pre-plans? Is that
So
what you
right
had-
here, when I'm talking about this, is under profiles. If we go to settings and user profiles,
Yep,
and we'll just open up,
click on firefighter, because that's what I was looking at.
we'll look at firefighter, and then right here under web settings, it'll ask you on pre-plans, you'll set it to, you want to do it by station and shift, that's fine. And then over here for inspections, hydrants, and pre-plans, you want to set it to be this year. So when they open it up, it's going to look at the pre-plans by station and shift and this year. So where it pulls this station and shift from is over here. I'll show you this, is in the actual staff settings for each person. You have this station and shift. So when this person would log in and they clicked on pre-plans, it would go look at station 51 and B shift and show them what pre-plans have been scheduled for station 51 and B shift. If they're working overtime or they got moved to a station and it hasn't been updated back here, they can just as simply hit on advanced search and they can change the box, or they can change the station and shift, whatever they need to do. So if I'm just looking at what's assigned to that station, if I'm looking at just what's assigned to that station, I could come right here and say, I'm at station 40 on A shift. I could take this out and not use this at all. And now when I hit search, it's going to show me all the properties, the same number that are scheduled to my station. So this would be the default to where it would show this year, and it would show station 40 and shift A if that was set under my user credentials when I logged into the software. If I was working at a different station and I had to do pre-plans for that different station, I could just come in here and say, change it from station 40 to station 41. And of course, if there's nothing assigned, then nothing will show up. So once you assign them to a station and a shift, for the end user, they just click pre-plans and they go and grab that information. Not a problem at all. And then once they get their list, they can hit map view, and then they can go out and do their pre-plans.
Okay.
So any questions on how we create and assign pre-plans to stations and shifts?
No, well, can we actually play around with it and send some out, knowing it's probably going to be overwritten?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because
We'll take
I'm
a look
going to
at it.
actually, I'm going to actually, before I come on site, I'm going to actually build some in, so I'll have them for training.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. And you've already got some built in. If you select station 40 and A shift, you'll have some. The key thing is their day due date. So let's go back and look at that. So let's say I want to make a change to this. I want to bring this, and I want to come and I want to do, just for purposes of training, I want to come here and I want to look at station 40 and I want to look at A shift. And then I want to change these to all be done December of this year. I could click right here to assignment. And I could come right here to say, I want to update the due date, and I want to make it December 31st. And then I can check all of these that I want to update, or I can make it a mass update because I'm going to do the whole list. I'm just going to update the due date on the whole list, and I can make it December 31st and hit submit. And you'll notice that when it does it, everything stayed the same over here. The due date changed. So now if the default is set to this year for the due date, I come in here and say this year, and then station 40 and A shift. There they are. So now I show that there is my list of properties that I have to go pre-plan that are there.
I don't know, what does the yellow and white mean?
Yellow and white is basically your risk assessment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you brought over your risk assessment, it's going to give you the risk assessment on the properties.
Excellent. That's good.
So you'll notice right here, if it's white, then no risk assessment has been done. Then you have low, moderate, significant, and maximum.
Where's the starter shack?
Who knows? Hey, which one do you want to click on?
Scroll down just a little bit. Like there's a
Okay, Cherry Hill.
starter shack. Why is that a?
Yeah, can you click on that and see what it says about it? Cherry Hill Golf Course Starter Shack,
Where
Down.
the heck is he
Down.
at? Right here?
right there.
Right.
Yep. Just wondering why it's clicked as a moderate.
Somebody put it as a moderate. Let's go look at the risk assessment. Oh, you didn't schedule it.
Oh,
Looks
because
like
that's
this
why.
came over. Yeah, somebody flagged it as a moderate. I don't consider that to be a moderate.
No. No.
So while we're
It's a
talking
20 by
about,
20 building.
and this is one of the things that we'll talk about on Thursday, or yeah, Thursday before we do the training.
Yeah, the admin day. Okay.
Do you want, and this is kind of for your fire prevention bureau, do they want to do the risk assessment when they do their inspection? Or do they want the guys on the truck to actually walk through and do the OVAP risk assessment?
I would prefer the OVAP be done by the crews.
Okay, so then we'll walk through how they do that. The problem that I found with the OVAP is that sometimes they don't know the type of constructions. And that becomes an issue. The other things, they can guesstimate building size, they can guesstimate exposure separations. The life safety, they don't know the occupant load in some cases. They don't know the mobility, the alarm system, the exit system. So what I've often recommended to departments is we have what's called the Heron, which is a short one. It's 3 questions. It basically asks, on this property, what's the consequence to the community? And it gives you a breakdown of the impact. Then it asks you, how likely is it that you're going to respond to this building? And then if you did respond, what type of forces are going to be needed to put the fire out?
Hey, Ed,
I like this for a quick one to be done by guys in the field. And then as inspectors go around to do inspections, they can do the risk assessment to see if there's any change. But what I found in about 99.9% of the time, these 3 questions produce the same risk rating that is there under the OVAP system. It's just like some people like to use the OVAP because that's derivative of the National Fire Academy. I get it. And that's just a good system to work. But the problem with that is, and I'll just ask the question, how many of your guys know construction types by their classes And then when you're talking about life safety, how many of them know the occupant loads? And know
Yeah,
what type of alarm system are in there?
Yeah, Ed, this is when you were by yourself and you just had your head above the water. This is what I was seeing if you got you when you entered in like your initial building, when it gets added in, if you could start working on that, and then it can be updated when the crews would go out. So you could put
That's
in.
what I meant. That's what I meant by I prefer the crews, John. I misspoke. So basically, if we have the information, we will fill it in, but when they're there, they need to verify that it's still, nothing's changed. That's the way I took it.
That makes
But if
sense.
it's blank, if it's completely blank, we'll fill it out because I agree, we have the knowledge and we have the ability to fill it in. But if they walk on a building, my challenge that I'm having is, we don't know a building's built now until we show up. And
Yeah,
if they come across it before we do,
Nor are they expected to do that.
I leave it blank and let them do the hair on if that's okay.
Yes, that's, and
and we
I would,
we
I
were
would
for the
agree.
OVAP.
yeah, we prefer the OVAP because it's more detailed. But if your goal is to get a risk assigned to all your buildings
tab is the
sooner than later,
This is all
then you
OVAP.
might want to
can go
look
the
at
Heron
using the
one.
Heron.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
I
that's
see.
his.
But if you're going to want to have best data, you want to use the OVAP.
We'll stick with the OVAP, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
referenced in our CRASOC for accreditation.
Yep.
Yes, OVAP is tied to accreditation. You're correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's kind of where that's at inside of that process. Any
Can
other
you
questions
click on
about?
pre-plan?
Can I? What do you mean on pre-plan?
Can you just, so you got risk assessment pulled up. Can you, right below that's pre-plan?
Oh yeah, this is showing you a history of the last pre-plan that was completed or
okay.
scheduled. This is showing you a history of the last inspections that were completed or scheduled.
Tommy
This is
Castell
showing-
on the prowl.
This is showing you a list of calls to that property. And then all of your pre-plan data is actually broken in here: contacts, property details, attachments, if there are any drawings, hazmat on site, remarks, any access issues, any fire protection issues, exposure issues, permits, additional contacts. So all of these areas are areas that are there. And commonly with all of these areas, if there is some type of data that you want to capture, like a Knox box location, or any type of data you want to capture into your pre-plans, in the back office, you can actually go into the administrative section. And if you go to properties, you'll notice there's something called pre-plan categories. And this is where all of those items like access or exposure, here are all the exposure fields that are there. So you can have all of these listed in under exposure fields. So you'll notice this came over from your database. So this has your access problems, your account ID, all of this information that's coming in from your system. Then if I look at fire protection features, here are all the items you have for fire protection that you created. And this is where you create those fields for data to basically be added to your system.
Gotta send this off to Jen.
So if you want to add fields to grab more stuff, this is where you grab that information. And commonly under remarks, under general, I'll commonly add one that says Knox box. And it basically puts, is there a Knox box present? Yes. And then the second would be Knox box location. And they would just tell you where the Knox box is located at. So it's just a way you can capture data and create custom fields or additional fields to capture in your pre-plan. I have some departments that have built in to where if it's a ladder access needed, aerial access needed, or aerial access restrictions, they will go into the system and be able to capture that data as well. Okay, so any other general questions about scheduling pre-plans?
Yeah, not right now, but when you get done with the conference call, we'll have plenty.
Yeah, I know. And so y'all can send me emails and stuff like that, and then I'll be there for that full day of admin work. So if there's any other questions, I'm sure we'll be answering a bunch of questions on that day. All right.
So, are you gonna, we've got them scheduled. Are you gonna go over how to do an inspection or a pre-plan?
Yeah, for your end users, we will. When we do the end user training, we'll walk through how to do a pre-plan.
Okay, so that's another day.
Yeah, well, that's part of the end user training. I was asked to go over how to set up and schedule pre-plans.
Okay. All right, that works.
I didn't know y'all wanted an end user also. I would have booked more time, but I have another department I have to get on.
No, it's okay. I wasn't sure what all was entailed for today.
Yeah, it was requested just to go over, that's why I booked 1 hour to go over the scheduling of pre-plans.
Okay.
And
That
assigning
works.
pre-plans.
That works. Thank you.
Anything else from any of you guys? All
I
right.
think we're good. Thank you.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and I'll upload this recording to y'all's database as soon